One of the great things about using acrylic paint is that it dries very quickly. And so you can work on a painting for quite a long time because each layer will dry quickly. But that's also one of the disadvantages, in that your paint on your palette can also dry up very quickly. And so in this video, I wanted to show you the system that I use for making a wet palette. And a wet palette is great because it means that your paint lasts a long time without drying out. And the system that I use, I can have paint on my palette for weeks and still it's usable. Whereas if it was just on a normal palette, it will have dried and be useless. So this not only, it certainly saves you money because you're not wasting paint that's drying out on your palette. So this is my one of the palettes that I have. And what it is I use this document case. These are A4 document cases, and they're a clip lock so that you can close them, and they're quite airtight. Now you can use these, or I know some people use trays. I'll put one tray down and then they'll have another tray that they cover it with when they're finished. So all I do is get some paper towel, and I think here I've got about 5 layers of paper towel, which I just fold to size, and then you soak your paper towel, and it's quite wet. And then what I use is freezer paper. Now freezer paper comes in a long roll, and I think it's used for things like separating burgers and fritters and so forth in your freezer, so they don't stick together. And it's shiny on one side and matte on the other. Now that is my preferred paper. Some people use tissue paper or baking parchment or greaseproof paper, and I have used all those in the past, but I find that they wrinkle and they don't last half as long as the freezer paper does. Freezer paper is actually very much like the throwaway palette paper that you can buy in art shops, the tear-off palettes. This is also shiny on one side and matte on the other. So I'm thinking it's possibly the same thing, except this is a lot cheaper to buy a big roll of freezer paper. So then I just cut a piece to size. Now the important thing to remember if you're using freezer paper is that it curls. So I find that stopping it curling is quite easy just by making a fold and folding it over your wet paper towel. Once you've done that, you'll find that the paper doesn't curl anymore. But if you don't cut it to size so that you can fold it, you will find it a bit annoying because it will curl. So all you do then is put your paint on, and that's your wet palette done. The other thing that's quite handy to have is one of these spritzing bottles, so that once you put your paint on, you can just give it a wee spritz on the top, and that'll help moisten it as well. Then all you do, use your palette as normal, and then when you finish painting, just clip your lid closed, and this paint will stay fresh for weeks. What will happen after a certain amount of time is that you will start to smell the paper towel, and it has a slightly damp and mouldy smell, and that's when it's time to get rid of it and get new paper towel and throw away your palette and start the whole system again. I hope that's been helpful, and that you can come up with a similar system for yourself, which will save you a lot of money, a lot of inconvenience as well. It's very convenient to be able to come out in the morning knowing you've got all your paint out already and just be able to start painting.